Solving quadratics by completing the square. Before we jump into actually solving quadratics, completing the square, I want to review for you some of the terms that we've already worked on in this unit. I want you to remember that all of these terms that are on your screen currently mean the same thing. X-intercept, 0, and solution. These all basically mean the same thing. If you remember though, the x-intercept is a point on the graph, so when we write it, we have to write it as a point. And remember, the y on the x-axis is always 0, so we write it as the point, whatever the x is, 0. A 0, we're going to write it in the form of just x is whatever that solution is, and then also solution is x equals whatever you get on that too. Also remember that you can have different types of solutions. You could have 2 solutions, 1 solution, or no solution if the graph does not cross the x-axis. Alright, so just keep this in mind, and we're going to use this. I'm going to use these terms interchangeably in the rest of this lesson and also in your assignment that you'll be doing in class. Okay, so here is our example. We want to find the x-intercepts of y equals x squared plus 2x minus 24. Now, if you'll remember, we've actually been doing this for a few lessons, but all of them were written in vertex form, which is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And remember, we were solving this, and we got this part like this by itself, and then to solve it, we actually took the square root of both sides, if you remember that. So that's how we solved these. But we can't do this process right now because it's in the equations actually written in standard form, ax squared plus bx plus c. And if we go ahead and use what we know about x-intercepts, it tells us to plug in a 0 for y. So if I do that, I get 0 equals x squared plus 2x minus 24. And if I tried to start solving that, I would add 24 to both sides. I'd move this over. But that'd still give me x squared plus 2x. So I don't know how to get rid of that 2x part, so I have the x squared by itself. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and we're going to use completing the square like we did in our last unit. We're going to complete the square, and then we're to get this standard form into vertex form, and then we're going to solve that vertex form to get our x. Okay, so I hope that made sense. If it didn't, just follow along, and this will make sense to you, I'm pretty sure. Okay, so I'm going to complete the square on the right side of the equation. I'm going to complete the square for this. I'm going to leave the equal 0 alone for right now. Alright, and come back and use that later. So let's go ahead and complete the square. If you remember completing the square, we took the squared term and the x term, and we grouped those together in a parenthesis. I leave a little space, and then I put that minus 24 on the outside. And remember, we're going to put something in here. Whatever I add in here, we're going to do the opposite out here, so that I still have my equation balanced out. Okay, so if you'll remember from this, what I did is I wrote x, and I'm going to make it plus because of that plus right there, and then I'm going to put it in squared. I'm going to leave my space, and if you remember, this blank is b over 2. The b comes from your equation, it's the x part. So if I divide 2 by 2, I get a 1 there. Right now, to fill in this blank, I take that 1 and I square it. Remember, this is kind of the shortcut, simplified way of doing this. So what's 1 squared? It's plus 1. Now remember, whatever I add in here, I have to do the opposite out here. So I'm going to minus 1 out here. Okay? So that gives me now x plus 1 squared, and then minus 24 minus 1 is minus 25. And then now I'm going to bring down my 0 equals. So now I have this equation written in vertex form. And now I'm just going to do what I did in my previous lessons. I'm going to solve this for x. So let's go ahead and do that. If you'll remember, the first thing in solving for x when I have it in vertex form is I got to move this 25 over by doing the inverse operation, which is adding 25. So that gives me 25 equals x plus 1 in parentheses squared. Alright, so once I've got it in that form, now what I want to do is I want to take the square root of both sides. Alright, and that's going to give me, remember, plus or minus 25, I'm sorry, plus or minus 5 equals x plus 1. And now I'm going to have two equations to solve. And I'm going to go up here to the left and do these. I'm going to have positive 5 equals x plus 1, or negative 5 equals x plus 1. And now I'll solve each of those by subtracting 1 and get 4 equals x, or subtract 1 here, negative 6 equals x. And I'll put my 4 in there. Now, since I asked you to write it as an x-intercept, I'm going to ask you to write them as ordered pairs. So it would be 4, 0, or negative 6, 0. I could replace this with solutions or zeros. And then the next lesson you're going to learn another word. If I said solutions or zeros, you would have just written it as x equals 4 or x equals negative 6. Okay? I hope this made sense to you. We're just combining two things we've already done. If you have any questions or concerns about this, rewind the video, watch it again, and you can bring those questions with you to class. Make sure you complete the WISP before you come to class, and we'll see you then.